welcome to Insight. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Today we beam our searchlight on flood mitigation. Floods encountered around the world are diverse and evolving both in their nature and impact on society. Recent floods experienced in some parts of the country resulted in widespread economic damages and countless social and environmental impacts, including evacuation and displacement of people. The causes of these flooding events require different approaches to manage and mitigate their adverse impacts. We will be looking at flood mitigation and response. Sustainable Development Goal 4 is about quality education and is amongst the 17 Sustainable Development Goals established by the United Nations in September 2015. SDG 4 is aimed at ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education to promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. How do we meet this target before 2030? That will also be a focus on the program. So, once again, welcome to Insights.
I'm fascinated with the discourse on national monuments and assets and how much is being done to preserve and
look into the language issue. We have turned English to become like a pride value in our own cultural values.
It's not cash transfer. It's not a COVID-19.
Invasion 1897 was a deliberate
You know, many of these people coming to the urban areas now.
These and applications, there are terms and conditions that
of course it is the union of two people, a man and a woman coming together.
My name is Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori.
Educational deprivation is not the end of the world.
Agencies and stakeholders to proactively tackle these challenges.
Women in most countries of the world constitute about 50% of registered voters.
Kevin Williams reporting for Dateline 360.
In Jos, Caleb Gochin, Dateline 360.
Naja Atiti
Dateline 360. Shidi Okrafo.
For Dateline 360.
In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
Reporting for Dateline 360.
I am Omosola Omojola. Thanks for tuning in.
The impacts of flood have social, economic and environmental consequences. These consequences vary depending on the location and extent of flooding, the vulnerability and value of the natural environment. As most people are aware, the immediate impact of flooding include loss of human lives, damage to property, destruction of crops, loss of livestock, and deterioration of health conditions owing to waterborne diseases. Sometimes communication links and infrastructure are damaged and disrupted. Some economic activities may be halted and people are forced to leave their homes. Mitigating this natural disaster is a focus on this segment, and my guest, Dr. Nuhu Solomon, Provost, College of Health Sciences and Technology, Ida, Kogi State, and immediate past Deputy National President, Environmental Health Officers Association of Nigeria, will deal on the issue. Thank you so much, Dr. Nuhu, for joining us on Insights.
Thank you very much, my dear sister, and good day to you, viewers nationwide and beyond.
Most communities are dreading the sight of dark clouds ready to pour. This feeling, I believe, is universal because some nations are also grappling with this challenge. It is natural, but there seems to be more to it. Why is this persisting?
Thank you very much. Flooding is one of the natural disasters that take place globally. We have many other natural disasters like droughts, hurricane, earthquakes, and others. But most persistently, in the recent time, flooding has become a perennial problem globally and in our nation. The reason for this is not far-fetched. We have problem of climate change and global warming. This is a major cause of flooding in the recent time in Nigeria and other neighboring countries of the world. Now, why do we say climate change is a major factor? The climate change and global warming is bringing about a gradual increase in the atmospheric weather condition and the temperatures of the oceans. And we have these parts of the world we call the temperate zones. And these are places that are far away from the sun. And because of the cool temperature of the environment of these places, the water there changes to ice, what we call glaciers. But because of this rise in the atmospheric weather conditions, these glaciers begin to melt gradually, and they are running into bodies of water. And the bodies of water like rivers, oceans, begin to overflow their banks. And that is also causing this flooding we're talking about. Then again, the atmospheric change, the variation in the atmospheric weather condition is leading to incessant rainfall, heavy rainfall. And this heavy rainfall is one of the causes of flooding. We call it flash flood. And again, still in connection to the climate change, as a result of this melting of the glaciers, that the waters in these temperate zones of the world are running into bodies of water. There are some countries that construct dams in order to control this influx of water. And when the dams become heavily loaded with water, they will now open the dams. And these begin to cause flooding in the neighboring communities and countries of the world. So these are major factors that actually bring about this flooding that we're experiencing, particularly in Nigeria today.
Could unlawful acts and negligence be responsible?
Apart from the fact that, building on drains and floodplain areas may be the cause of flooding, but there is a major source where this water is coming from. Particularly the flood that took place in this country this year, 2022, is as a result of release of water from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. Now, even if there are no buildings in floodplain areas, imagine there are some states that was completely submerged by the flood. So that may not be as a result of building in a particular area. So now if we want to really deal with the problem, we deal with it with the root. According to Robert Schuller, a man that wrote the book titled Tough Time Never Lasts, But Tough People Do, he said the principles of problem management. He used an acronym IPDE. I stands for identification of the problem, P stands for predicting what the problem will do if it remains unsolved, D stands for taking decision, and E stands for executing, carrying out the solutions you have already fashioned out. So what we are saying here is that when we know this, the major source of this flooding, we deal with it from there. Now, no matter how we scare the people from building on floodplain areas or building on drainages, if the major cause of this flooding is not dealt with, the problem remains unsolved. But the volume of the water can no longer be contained by these channels. And that is why by the time we begin to talk about factors that will mitigate this flooding, we will actually delve very deeply into that. So again, I am not saying that building in floodplain areas and on drainages is a good practice. It's not a good practice. But I am saying that that cannot be the lasting solution. So if we really want to deal with the problem of flood, with particular reference to this country, Nigeria, it will go far beyond discouraging people from building in floodplain areas or in coastal areas, because even the flood now is going beyond those areas. People are not staying in floodplain areas, but okay, what of a whole community? What of a whole local government, like Abuja local government that is totally submerged? What of a whole state that is totally submerged? Bayelsa, for example, entire state totally submerged. So we can't talk about floodplain area in such cases. We're talking about solution that will, a definite solution to this problem of flood with particular reference to this country, Nigeria.
Could you share your experience with us on Lokoja?
The flood that took place in Lokoja this time around is indeed worrisome. It is nerve-breaking and mind-boggling because a greater proportion of Lokoja was totally submerged. I think the flooding that took place this time around went beyond the one that took place in 2012. We were told from history that there was flooding like this in 1936. That was almost 70-something years ago. But this time around, it was very, very heavy. And places where the water never reached, the water went there and submerged everywhere. And part of Kogi State, like I mentioned, the whole of Ibaji community, which we may look at as the food basket of Kogi State and beyond, was totally submerged by the water. Part of either local government, Ofu local government, Igalamela Adolu local government, Basa, was totally submerged by this flood. So it was indeed a very terrible situation that took place at Lokoja.
All right, if you were to assess the level of response to disasters in Nigeria, how would you make your assessment?
The solution is, what do we do that will prevent this flood from taking place? I think that should be a solution that we all should reckon with. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take you back to the issue of release of water from Latgo Dam in Cameroon, which is a challenge for Nigeria in particular. Shouldn't be a way out of this practice?
You know, in trying to solve the problem of flooding in this country, let me just categorize the measures into two. We have what we call long-term measures and short-term measures. The short-term measures is that when there is a flooding, what do we do to really remedy the situation? We evacuate the people to internally displaced person comes, we provide medicament, provide food, provide clothing for the people. These are short-term measures. Are you following? But when we talk about the long-term measures, what do we do that will actually mitigate this flood permanently? The solution from the long-term measures is that government should begin to think of, dredging our rivers. We have two major rivers in this country. We have River Niger and we have River Benue. Why is Lokoja that you mentioned before, mostly affected? Is because it's a confluent state. These two major rivers meet in that place. And an overflow of this water from these two rivers is submerging the entire community. So what we should do is that these rivers should be properly dredged. In dredging the river, canals is expanded.
Of course.
And even if there's a release of water from anywhere, it will be able to subsume. It will be able to, absorb the whole water, contain the whole water, that it will not run into neighboring communities and begin to destroy lives and property. Again, we should also think of construction of embankment. These are reinforced walls. In some of those places where we know the water is affecting the people, government or individuals that are able, non-governmental organizations that are able, can construct embankment, and the water will not be able to have their way to the neighboring communities to affect the people. So these again are measures that we can put in place to be able to remedy the situation. What of construction of dam? We are talking about Lagdo Dam that is constructed by the Cameroonian government. What of the government of Nigeria? Don't we think that should be a solution? We should construct dams so that it can hold this volume of water. Then again, there is also this natural control measures to flooding. I mentioned before that the major factor that lead to this flooding is climate change. Then what therefore should be the solution to this climate change? We talk about afforestation, planting of trees.
Trees, yeah.
These trees that has green leaves, has some content we call chlorophylls, green pigment. This very substance has the ability to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. And this carbon dioxide is one of the greenhouse gases. Among the gases that lead to this climate change, we have sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, methane. And these are gases that have the ability to absorb the ultraviolet radiation that is coming from the sun. Now, if this regulatory function is carried out by forests vis-a-vis photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, the green plants absorb carbon dioxide. This very gas that absorbs heat, that is leading to the warming of the atmospheric weather conditions. If they are absorbed by the plant make use of it to produce its own food. The end result of that reaction is oxygen. And that is why in any environment where there are trees, the environment looks very conducive, looks very cool, because there is this natural phenomenon that is taking place, natural reaction that is taking place. Carbon dioxide that is hitting the atmosphere is absorbed by the plant. It uses this to carry out its own, the manufacturing of its own food. Oxygen is released, and this is very good for human being. So what we are saying in essence is that if government should embark on vigorous afforestation, planting of trees, the regulatory function is carried out by these trees, and that will regulate this climatic condition, this climate change and global warming that we're talking about, so that there will be no flooding in the first place. Yes.
All right, let's take a cue from the east-west road along Rivers Bayelsa axis. The impact should not even be imagined because so many people have lost their lives. But recently, NIMET issued a statement that some states will still be hit by the flood. What is expected of governments to help reduce the impacts?
Yes.
It has not even started, actually.
Okay.
Happened, actually.
Okay. I think in order to actually reduce the impact of this flooding to some of these communities that we may be expecting water to affect, we should carry out vigorous public enlightenment. Vigorous public enlightenment. Okay. There should be early warning to these people. The environmental health officers in these communities should be mobilized by government to warn the people to relocate to safer places. I think that would be very, very important. And again, there are some communities up to this very moment, when the flood comes up, the people do not have places where they can resort to. It therefore means that government should construct internally displaced camps. Like in Ibaji community, for example, either federal government assisted by state government assisted by the federal government can construct what we call upland type of structures. They can use reinforced concretes, reinforced steels to construct structures, buildings, such that if they construct these buildings in some of the specific settlements, if this flood comes, they will evacuate all their property and enter into this upland type of building. It is something that is doable. Government can do it if actually we have the love of the people at heart, if actually we are ready to actually protect the life of our people. So government again can also construct such things in some of these communities where we believe they cannot do away from actually being affected by the floods. Talking about proper waste management system should be put in place by the different governments in this country, local government, state government, and federal government. You know, I mentioned the major causes of flood, but when we talk about some other minor causes, is indiscriminate waste disposal. Blocked drains, blocked drainages is a cause of flooding, particularly flash flood. Now, if our waste management system is not in order, then we'll continue to have this problem of flooding. So what I will advocate at this time is that the government of such places should be able to establish a very standard waste recycling plant. If we have standard waste recycling plant, there won't be any waste anywhere. Now waste is entering into us, waste from the environment to us, and it's affecting our lives. Outbreak of diseases everywhere. Look at disease burden on the increase. Look at outbreak of common communicable diseases, which also is one of the impacts of this flooding. So government should see the need to enhance environmental health services in our nation. One of the past registrars of Environmental Health Officers Registration Council of Nigeria, an agency under the Federal Ministry of Environment, he said something, and I quote, he said, the major indices with which we use to measure the effectiveness or successfulness of environmental services in any nation is a drastic reduction in the occurrence of common communicable diseases and, if possible, total elimination. Now, how do we measure ourselves now? If we are doing well, why is there a perennial problem of outbreak of common communicable diseases in the country? If we are doing well, why is there sporadic outbreak of common communicable diseases like cholera, typhoid fever, malaria in different parts of the country? It means we are not doing well. Government is not prioritizing preventive healthcare services, and that is the problem. Our attention is on curative healthcare, but there is this slogan that prevention is better and cheaper than cure. Is it not better to prevent than to even allow it to take place before we begin to run here and there? So government should be able to actually sink in lots of money. There should be adequate budgetary allocation of government, even at the state, at the local government, and at the federal government. Then the problem of environmental services should be solved. The government will be able to employ adequate number of environmental health officers to be able to carry out the services. Government will be able to establish waste recycling plant. They will be able to buy different equipment to monitor the environmental media. So if these states that we have mentioned want to solve the problem of flooding, they must be able to construct a very good, adequate drainage system and maintain it. Then they must put in place a kind of well-organized waste management system that there won't be indiscriminate waste disposal in different parts of the state. By that, the problem of flooding will be solved.
I believe aside waste management, there's the need for attitudinal change. Now, you could put in place waste management system, or you throw in your debts when you are done, but people do not have that orientation.
Yeah.
Why is that so?
Thank you. You see, some of these I can fault some of our professional colleagues that are not really doing their job any longer. The impact on the society is not felt any longer because the environmental health officers are not really doing their job. Part of the work of environmental health is what we call health education, public enlightenment, sensitization, and advocacy. Government should be able to sensitize, provide the means, should be able to empower the environmental health officers so that they can actually carry out public enlightenment. They should carry out sensitization. And if you want the sensitization to reach every individual in the community, then the different segment, the different strata of our human society must be identified. You identify the traditional institution, you identify the educationists, you identify the artisan, you identify the market women, the youths. Are you following? And you take this sensitization to them, if possible in their local languages. If people are properly sensitized, if people are health educated, if people are well informed, it will lead to what we call definite behavioral change. They will be the one that will consciously do something to protect their own very life. Do you understand? That is why we said health education lead to sustainability of action. If you come to my house, say, take away this refuse dump. Don't allow refuse dump here. And you don't tell me the implication. I am not sensitized. I am not properly informed. I am not health educated to know that the implication of this is that it will attract vermins, it will attract snakes, it will attract rats to the environment because they will be finding their own food there. At the end of the day, they will get their herbages there. They will find a place to stay there permanently, and from there, they will be coming to your houses and be causing havoc. And lots of diseases that are related to these rodent infestation, rats. So if the people are properly informed on their own, even after you have left, 5 years, 6 years, they are still carrying out the action. So health education, public enlightenment lead to sustainability of action. People should, the right professionals, the environmental practitioners should be mobilized to be able to carry out intensive, extensive health education, having identified these different segments of our human society. Let's take this education to them. When they are properly informed, there will be a definite behavioral change, and the people will continue to take action that these kind of things they do that will affect their health will no longer come up.
Okay, when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goal on climate change, is 2030 is just warming up? It's not far. We have less than 8 years to 2030. But really, is Africa ready for this change?
I don't think we are ready. Because as we are talking, even as we talk, there are different agreements that has been reached by different countries of the world. We have what we call the Montreal Protocol. We have the Kyoto Protocol. We have the Paris Agreement. All these agreements have been reached by different countries of the world, United Nations. But along the line, some countries opted out. Then some of the things that has been mentioned that they should carry out, how many are doing it? Take, for example, it was reached, an agreement was reached by some countries of Africa in 2008 where it was agreed, having critically assessed the state of sanitation in their respective country, and they know it is very poor, and because of that it's affecting their nation's outbreak of diseases, poor sanitation, poor water supply. No, they agreed that a minimum of 0.5% of total budgetary allocation of government should be devoted to sanitation. But how many countries are complying with that today? And that is why we are not getting it right. See, government of the different countries of the world must be ready to comply with these different agreements. In some of these agreements, it is reached that measures should be put in place that will lead to carbon sink. This carbon dioxide that I told you is a major factor to climate change. There are some things that have been agreed that government of these different countries should carry out to allow carbon sink. Are we doing it? Then there are some other things that also lead to climate change and global warming. The use of chlorofluorocarbon in air conditioners, in foam finishing, in refrigerators, which when it is released into the atmosphere, react with the ozone layers. Are you following? Which is reacting with it and causing depletion. There is an ozone hole created, and then the ultraviolet radiation is coming to the earth and is warming the atmosphere and is causing this climate change and affecting so many things. How many of the countries that have reached this agreement are complying with this agreement not to make use of this chlorofluorocarbon? That is where we are having the problem. So I have not seen definite action put in place to really remedy this situation. And therefore we must be ready. Look at how it affected our nation this year. A lot of destruction has taken place. Economy destroyed, properties destroyed, livestock. You have mentioned it. A whole local government submerged. We should be ready for starvation. And if we don't take time, we should be ready for outbreak of common communicable diseases. It's not a cause, but these are professional facts that we can prove it out if nothing is done to remedy the situation.
Dr. Nuhu Solomon, really I am impressed with your explanations. Thank you so much for your thoughts on Inside this week. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That their educational deprivation is not the end of the road.
Agencies and stakeholders to proactively tackle these challenges.
Women in most countries of the world constitute about 50% of registered voters.
Kevin Williams reporting for Dateline 360.
In Jos, Caleb Gochin, Dateline 360.
Dateline 360. Shidi Okrafo.
For Dateline 360.
In Lagos, Michael Olaleye.
Reporting for Dateline 360.
I am Omosola Omojola. Thanks for tuning in.
SDG 4 aims to provide children and young people with quality and easy access to education, plus other learning opportunities. One of its targets is to achieve universal literacy, a major component in acquiring knowledge and valuable skills in the learning environment. Hence, the urgent need to build more educational facilities and also upgrade the present ones to provide safe, inclusive, and effective learning environments for all. The prevalence of extreme poverty, insecurity, communal conflicts, and other factors has significantly reduced the progress in many developing countries. How do we meet this target? My guest, Abdusalami Ladigbolu, President, UNESCO Read and Earn Federation, will set the conversation. Thank you, Mr. Abdusalami, for joining us on Insights.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, in 2015, nations committed to the actualization of the SDGs. How achievable are these goals?
Yeah, it's possible. What we need to think about first is we have to be sure of what is our priority among all these 17 goals. And most importantly, the most important goal we need to focus on, or we are focusing on, is the goal number 17. And then like education, goal 4, mother to child, all these 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they are priority to the nation, and I think that is what the nation is actually, one of the things the nation is actually focusing on. So we need to go for what is more important to us now, and then we forge ahead.
Okay, before we talk about SDG 4, which exactly is our priority amongst the 17 goals?
Well, we have different stakeholders interested in the SDG goals. And then just the way we have different ministries working in different sectors. Because no matter how your vision is clear, no matter how your commitment is strong, your passion is real, partnership goes a long way to get a strategic implementation of achieving all these goals. So it's, and again, if you look at the country, we came out of recession and then trying to put ourselves together, then struck COVID also. So it affected a lot of things. And then, the little we have, I'm not a government official, but the little the nation have, they have to just channel to the one that is more priority. They know what is priority to the nation, but whatever is their priority, I know they are doing their best.
Let's talk about goal 4. How close are we to meeting this targets? Nigeria and Africa.
Okay, when you talk about goal 4, we have sub goals also. Have the out of school children, we have quality education, teachers capacity building, and like that. So if you're talking about infrastructure for education, I can say that through the OSAP SDG, they've done fantastically well. They've built different facility for students, to actually have what it takes to have quality and conducive environment for education.
How does this target intend to address the issue of out-of-school children?
These are set of people that have between the ages, 1 to 6, that are not in a formal educational system, in primary and secondary school. So when you look at that very well, we need to also understand that there are some students that are into non-formal education system. So, and I always say that most report that comes out, I think the people in non-formal education system are being, kind of ignored. That's why the government always emphasize that try to deduct the students in non-formal education. And then in terms of factors that contribute to students leaving the school, there are different factors. We have insurgents. Look at Borno State, for example. We have some of them, probably their guardian or their parents died. We have some of them that maybe it's early marriage or something. So depending on the factor we tend to address, that we can actually say, okay, fine, in terms of out-of-school children, this factor has been addressed, this factor has been addressed. Because what is wrong with a child called out-of-school children in Borno may not be the same factor that is wrong with a student, a child, out-of-school children in Lagos State. The stakeholders, the Ministry of Education, the civil society organization, they are doing their best. And when you talk about education, education is just about enlightenment. That's what I see education. Education is not about me just having a degree. So even though if you go to school and then you have a certificate, do you know the commercial aspect of what you're carrying? I see a certificate as a proof that you have been trained in a particular field. Does not definitely mean that you'll be a successful businessman in it. And I think the government, the stakeholders involved should start seeing how we start thinking about the commercial aspect of any profession we're studying in university.
Okay, I'm still very much interested in meeting this goal before 2030, but how do we leverage on entrepreneurship to achieve this goal? Like you explained, it is not all about the four walls of a school, but there's more to it. How do we leverage on this?
We should create an environment that can promote micro, small, and medium enterprises. Do you understand? Now, entrepreneur, simply they are risk takers. And that is why we should emphasize on go for that will actually spur them to be innovative. Because to me, entrepreneurs are those that actually identify problem and solve it and provide solution, and then they are making money out of it. That is is different from a service provider, which most people refer to as I'm a businessman. If you now ask them what are you doing, probably they are importing from one country and selling. You are not an entrepreneur. You're just a service provider. If the where you're getting your goods from, if they pull the plug, you are gone. So education aspect, what the role education is going to play, like I said initially, that they should find a way of the commercial aspect of what we are studying in school, and then also create a way we can integrate innovation for fresh ideas among our youth.
Is Africa ready to meet up?
Yes, we are ready if the resources are there.
Okay.
Achieving Goal 2030, this is SDG goal SDG goals before 2030. We need to filter which one is our priority. So in terms of the priority, I think the government knows security is part of it. If there is no security, you can't actually do anything. If you can eradicate poverty, definitely there is no hunger. Do you understand? So those are the things, and I know that every ministry is doing their best about it.
Partnership or political commitments?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. First of all, partnership.
Okay.
Partnership goes a long way, because bringing in local and international partners will definitely help to contribute and complement the efforts of the administration to achieve the goals. Political is also the same. If there is no political will, you can have a conducive environment to do whatever you want to do. But I think as we're talking, I believe that the political will is there. And I know that, when you're talking about SDG goal, the office that oversees the actualization of that is OSAP SDG, I can tell you that they are doing very well. And I know before 2030, the report, like the office actually published Nigerian financial or something, integrated financial work or something. I'm not getting that very well, I can't remember. And then in the Global South, Nigeria also published a document showing what we have achieved. And then if you look at SDG Go again, you know that it was coming from MDG. And then MDG is Million Development Goal. And if you look at Sustainable Development Goal, that if you can't even achieve all the MDG goals, the ones you've achieved, can you sustain it? Do you understand? So that is, I think, the area. And I think in terms of education, mother to child, youth development, which I also oversees, I'm very much involved in that. I believe that Nigeria is getting it right.
All right, so what role is UNESCO playing in this regard?
You look at youth development, which is very important, because the way you treat your youth today determines how the future of the nation would be. Meaning that if you keep discouraging the youth, you're simultaneously destroying the nation's prosperity. Now, Nigerian youth are talented. There's talent everywhere, but opportunities is not available everywhere. That is where READ and then Federation for UNESCO is coming in, looking at stakeholders that shares our vision, that okay, fine, what can we do? The vision will become clearer more and more. The people, your target audience, you realize that they want more. So you yourself, you now realize that you cannot do this alone. So that is why the Goal 17, they refer to as mother of all goals. So you need partnership. Entrepreneurship we were referring to earlier, you know that we need a broader based economy to create employment. And the only way to do that, we need to start moving away from a retentive memory, probably educational system. We need to start looking at how, because I can read chapter 1 of a textbook and my colleague read chapter 2, and the lecturer might decide to bring the question from chapter 2. Does not mean at the end of the day I failed the exam, my colleague passed. Does not mean I'm a dullard. So, and then what we need to do is we're now looking at, okay, we need to emphasize on initiative educational system, which is raw. That's why I said earlier, intersection of fresh ideas. That is why Goal 9 is available in the SDG, innovation. I may decide to say, okay, fine, this is my own area. It is not necessary for me to have a degree before I can make impact to the society. So now, what we need to do in creating a broader-based economy needed to create employment, because in terms of out-of-school children, in terms of education also remember that economy plays an important role. If I have a child and I'm not able to feed or send the child to school, automatically it may result to child's labor. Okay, we see that very well, and we're also looking at how we can curb that. And then tradition also is part of what we should try to readdress, and then culture also is something we should also look at. At the UNESCO, we value culture so much, because if you look at the full meaning of UNESCO is education, culture, and scientific. Every culture has to be respected, but we can always modify our cultural belief or something that will fit into this present society for greater development of the nation.
If you consider the peculiarities of the African continent, how committed are African governments to youth development? Because the youth have been clamoring for inclusivity in governance.
First of all, we need to be sincere with ourselves.
Okay.
I'll link this to hope. You see graduates, they'll say, I've not gotten a job. I'm a graduate, I have credentials, I have this, I have that. But when you meet the organization, they are willing to employ, they will say, we don't have employable youth. The point is, when I employ you into my organization, I'm employing you to do a particular job for the organization to grow. I'm not employing you to tell you what to do for the organization. Now, if you want to be part of the government, talk about development. Which area are you looking at? I'm happy you use the word development, not empowerment. Which area are you looking at? Recently is now that you can say that the youth are more concerned or interested in government, that what is going on. That is one. Number two, do we really understand, the youth really understand how government has been run? The nitty-gritty, because if you want a particular thing in a particular government, you can't do that outside the system. Oh. Let me quote this governor, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna. He said, either you have NGO or your whatever, is little you can do to make any change in the society. If you want to make a change, you need to join politics so that you can be part of the government. I was born when the military was ruling Nigeria, so I never even have any interest about it. So the democracy is still very young in Nigeria. So when you talk about inclusiveness, you need to ask yourself, which area are they clamoring for? You understand? If you even look at, are they ready to even lead the nation? Do they have what it takes to lead the nation? Because when you talk about being part of it, are we ready to learn first, being a follower, and understand the rudiments of government and politics? We are getting there, and I know that the government is also looking for. In Kwara State, the governor, I think the young lady, I think 20-something years, is a commissioner. I think Sheyi Makinde also did the same thing, and I think one by one, it can't just change like that. I know maybe in a few years' time, I know we have, like I said, Nigerian youth is the best raw material youths in the world. When you refine them, give them the right environment, and they will exceed the expectation. But as of now, I think we're still in the learning process. And then we should try and be patient, learn, and then we take over. Very sure.
All right, from your explanation, looks like the youth are not ready. Are they not ready, or they don't have what it takes?
The youth are ready
to be in government.
To be ready is different from to have what it takes. We are all ready to rule the government, but we have what it takes to rule the nation.
Okay, let me put it to you personally, what does it really take to be in government?
Well,
have the young ones coming to make decisions, really.
Okay, first of all, the youth have played a very important role. They were able to push to get the bill signed, Not Too Young to Wrong bill, which is fantastic. That is part of the readiness of the youth of Nigeria. Are we ready to unite as the youth? President Buhari said something once. They said, if the youth stand up against us, we can't contain. Do you understand?
Not all.
Yeah? We can do this. So, but are the youth ready to form one? Because everyone wants to lead. Because they are all talented. That is what the blessing we have in Nigeria. But the things we should start looking at is, when you see someone doing things, let us support. Not trying to tell the world that I'm better off. I'm better than this person. If the youth can come together and unite together and say, okay, let us do this. Who is going to be a leader? Everybody cannot be a leader. So if you come together now, but the major thing to be in the government is that, let's be sincere with ourselves, we don't have the resources to compete. We still need the leaders to still finance some of our things. And then Africa, there's tradition of this respect. We are not rude. We can't just look up to a leader and insult them and things like that. So when you're trying to contest and someone say, calm down, I will do this for you. And then for example, a youth that is not working, is hungry, but you have the skill, is cerebral. Money play an important role, in actualizing our dream to be in government. But I know that very soon, we are looking at the youth that will actually be the take over. We've already have General Gowon, 27. We have younger, but I don't know what really happened. That just changed. well, yeah. I'm optimistic.
You're not pessimistic, right?
No, because
Because I picked something you said, financial empowerment is critical. It's an important factor in government.
Yeah.
Whichever position, whichever office you want.
Okay.
The financial empowerment is very important. And then when it is not there, that's when you find the youth involve themselves in certain things.
Well, first of all, I want the Nigerian youths to be a critical thinker and also put the emotion aside.
Okay.
The truth is, nobody is perfect. And we have the numbers. What we should also understand is, during election, in my own understanding, is divided into three: campaign, advocacy, and engagement. What I can see majority of the youth are doing is just campaigning. We need to learn the strategic way of doing advocacy and then getting people engaged. That is the way out. We understand that they're asking so many questions and they need answers. So the only answer is to get your PVC and then decide who you want to be the next president, governor, and Senate, House of Representatives. And to add to that, it's not only the president that makes the country work, which I've noticed that most Nigerians think, oh, if this person is there. It's time to start looking at those that will be working with your president. The Senate, the House of Representatives, especially your governor, plays an important role in the development of your state, and then your local government. So we are not in military regime whereby it's just we're going to pass a decree. Things have to go to National Assembly. So we need cerebrals, intellectuals, selfless people that we're actually going to vote and can see things in a positive way.
Wanda, thank you so much for coming on Insight.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I'm fascinated with the discourse on national monuments and assets and how much is being done to preserve and
look into the language issue. We have turned English to become like a pride value in our own cultural values.
It's not cash transfer. It's not a COVID-19.
Invasion 1897 was a deliberate
many of these people coming to the urban areas now.
These and applications, there are terms and conditions that
of course it is the union of two people, a man and a woman coming together.
My name is Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori. And that's Insight this week. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to always be your brother's keeper, be patriotic, and shun acts capable of tarnishing our image. I'm Elizabeth Omori. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.